When you watch 28 years later The Bone Temple, it's highly likely that your definition of the word sequel will be challenged. In one way, there's so little here of what made the prior film 28 years later work and be so loved so instantly. That unique violent camera work, the heightened fear of being chased by a zombie in the woods, the bold combination of poetry and soundtrack, all of that completely absent in The Bone Temple. Hell, the protagonist kid from the first film, Spike, he has maybe like 10 lines here. But while it throws those ideas out in the bin, The Bone Temple doubles down on the world built in the prior film so well and continues its story and its characters so brilliantly that despite being so different, it is equally unmissable.
And survived. And yet even greater changes are still to come.
Are you ready?
You like Mad Max Fury Road, right? Now, who am I kidding? Of course you do. Watching 28 years later and then its sequel, The Bone Temple, is like going from Mad Max Fury Road to Furiosa, where the first felt like this high-octane adventure with edge-of-your-seat pacing that just refused to let you go. Furiosa slowed things down significantly, letting go of the first film's roller coaster pacing to allow for a more tubing down the river pacing. One that is slower, no doubt, but more pensive and soaks you into your surroundings slowly rather than splashing you in the face with it. The same comparison can be made here. Tension in The Bone Temple is instead rooted in a quiet stillness, conversation between conflicting ideologies, and the resulting violence of a very evil, violent people raised in an evil, violent world. If there are two things about The Bone Temple that I think will be talked about the most moving forward, it is likely going to be hands down its brilliant, over-the-top, weirdly executed ending, as well as the very uncomfortable, unpleasant path to get there. Let's talk about that first one for a minute. We all remember that Ralph Fiennes in the first movie was, as the kids say these days, the MF'n GOAT. He still is here. Hell, he might even be up for an award, honestly. He continues to play this doctor surrounded by misery and death, people getting their heads popped off, while still being one of the most optimistic and positive people you've ever seen on film. You get to know him more here and you feel for him more here. How lonely he is, how the closest thing he has to a human relationship here is one with a 7-foot-tall demon zombie with a comically large dick. In the way a good sequel should do, he is a continuation of what we saw in the last film. And what we learn about him here is doled out so well, you say to yourself, oh, yeah, that makes complete total sense. It feels like you can go back to the prior movie and appreciate him even more. But the reason this ending is so brilliant, and will likely be this movie's legacy, is because it is the ultimate showdown between a man that is so good and a man that is so not good. Jimmy. Good. Oh God, good Lord. Kind of poetic that Jimmy's father was a preacher and Jimmy himself is like an anti-preacher in a way. He'll give these speeches that sound like holy sermons, but are, yeah, they're not. They're very much not so. You see, the film mainly centers around Spike from the first film, hanging around Jimmy and his gang of Teletubby-themed kids, also named Jimmy. Weird, I know. As they prowl about the world doing, bad stuff. This group mainly replaces the threat that the infected posed in the first one, and in a completely different way. They don't chase after people. I should put this down. I talk with my hands, sorry. They don't chase after people with a breakneck speed. They instead torture them slowly over the course of many minutes of runtime. Boy, oh boy, I hope you have your ondensetrone and Satali breathing techniques, because The Bone Temple is not for the weak-stomached. AKA me. I get it, okay? I get it, I do. I may not like it, I may never want to watch this again, but I do recognize that the disturbing, gross stuff is necessary. You see, the ending of The Bone Temple relies on what we said earlier, the epic climactic battle of not fists, but words, between Dr. Ian Kelsing, the ultimate good, and Jimmy, the ultimate evil. But before that can happen, the movie has to prove to you that Jimmy is the ultimate evil. It does that, it proves that. Okay? At one point, I'm like, I get it. Jesus. The world building of 28 years later still makes sense here within that framework. It very much is a study on the nature of evil. For example, we met Spike in the first film, right? A young kid who grew up in a seemingly peaceful town. It's got its weird stuff going on, no doubt. But he had a family. He had food on the table. He was within the safety of these walls. The Bone Temple introduces us to another character named, Jimmy, I guess, who answers the question, what if someone was born beyond those walls, into a violent world and knows no other, who had to face evil while being raised alongside evil? Can that person have a good nature? What happens when you put a knife in their hand? I really like that character, by the way. Shout out to Erin Kellyman, the actress who played such a complicated role here. Almost as complicated as, recommending the Bone Temple to you. If you loved the first 28 Years Later film like I did, I can't promise that you're gonna like this one. It sacrifices a lot of what made that first movie great in favor for a slow, uncomfortable build to a third act that earns all the YouTube videos it's gonna get for years to come. But if you have any interest in this world, any interest in films that make you think a bit deeper on the drive home, or, if you have some extra anti-nausea medication on hand, I highly suggest you give the Bone Temple a try in theaters. But what did you think of the Bone Temple? Or what would you like to see in a potential third entry, as we're supposedly getting a whole trilogy out of these movies? A trilogy that truly could be special. Let me know down in the comments below, and for more movie chats like these over a cup of coffee, like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.